name's Harriet Vesting, and I'm Executive Director of Anthropocene Alliance. And we are here with our incredible partners, the Environmental Protection Network, who are a network of, and I do have the notes, 600 and something or other, former EPA. Michelle, say the line, say the spiel. Or Kathy.
You got it. We're
650 plus ex-EPA employees.
There you go. But just follow whatever Harriet tells us. So.
And they're real partners in crime and fantastic partners to be with. And Anthropocene Alliance is a network of over 300 climate and environmental justice organizations, mostly community-based organizations, some tribes and some municipalities. And our job is to get money and technical assistance and advocacy support to our members. And I'm assuming that Michelle is here, in which case she can put her email address in the chat if anybody is on this call and is not a member and would like to join. It's completely free. So we have these fantastic A2 forums in conjunction with EPN once a month, the second Wednesday of every month. And this time we have some wonderful speakers, Erica Spangler-Raz from Green Pro Bono, and Gillian Blanchard and Nesta Perez from Lawyers for Good Government. And because I've got your bios on my other screen, perhaps you don't mind saying a little sentence or two about yourselves. So we're going to first start with Erica. She's going to present for 15 minutes. Then we'll go over to the Lawyers for Good Government to present for 15 minutes. And fingers crossed, that'll give us 30 minutes for lots of questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Harriet. Are we kicking off now? We're good?
Go for it.
Good. I see you shaking head. I am going to see if I can share my screen. And hopefully this will work. If you guys can see. If I make this a slideshow, are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Harriet, if you can nod your head because you're the one I see on my screen. So, and actually let me go back to the beginning. So what exactly, are you seeing a big screen or are you seeing like 3 slides?
We're seeing one single slide that says Green Pro Bono.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I got my technology to work, Harriet. I don't know what's going on with you. Yes. Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Erica Spangler-Raz. I am an attorney. I'm based in the Chicagoland area. I am pro bono advisor for Green Pro Bono. And I also have my own law firm, Spangler-Raz Law and Consulting, and I help nonprofit startups and provide fractional general counsel and affordable legal services for small community-based organizations. But my work with environmental organizations is pro bono, as I mentioned, working with Green Pro Bono. So I will stick to my time limit, and I am also available for questions, however you have your agenda set up for today. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Green Pro Bono and kind of how we work. We're a clearinghouse that matches climate-friendly social enterprises and nonprofits. So one of the things that we do is that we help nonprofits, but we also help social enterprises or hybrid combination corporations, so benefit corporations, L3Cs, multi-entity structures. We help them with pro bono legal assistance through our network of hundreds of volunteer attorneys, and we work with large law firms across the nation, across jurisdictions, across many states. So I think there's 47 states that we have volunteers in. And our mission is to help environmental change makers define their legal needs. So we help with that definition part and make sure that we're the right resource for you, or if we are not, we will connect you with one of the other various technical support and capacity building organizations if we are not the one to help you obtain the legal assistance. I'm going to go into a little bit more about what those green words are. So what our vision is by offering the transactional pro bono help for our clients, that we will help expedite the innovations that are necessary to combat climate change. So how we do that, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is that we provide access to legal services for, in the legal world, what we call transactional legal requests. So I'll have an FAQ that gives a little bit more detail on what these different types of legal assistance that we provide in. But just generally, they kind of fall into these buckets. So entity formation could be articles of incorporation, bylaws, conflict of interest policy, getting 501c3 status or 501c4 status. And so basically the income tax exemption, if there's any type of additional corporate structure that is needed, the advice and representation related to that. I mentioned benefit corporations and L3Cs, depending on the jurisdiction, or public benefit corporations, again, depending on the state or the jurisdiction. General corporate advice could be about governance or bylaws. Sometimes we get questions about gift acceptance policies or whistleblower policies. So those are some of the regulations, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, that may apply to your organization. Intellectual property advice, so patents, copyrights, trademarks for branding for your organization, contract drafting, various different kinds of contracts, employment law advice, hiring employees, getting an employment handbook as your organization is growing. You may need these kinds of kind of business law advice. And then related to what, the core of the clients that we work with is interpreting the regulations around energy, environmental, tax, financial, just general nonprofit advice. If you have a question, even if you don't know if it's a legal question or one for an accountant, and you just want somebody to talk to, submit a form on our website and I'll show you that. Lease review and land agreements, land donation agreements. So anything related to real estate, land use, that is more transactional and not necessarily litigation. Those again, the types of things that we can help with. And I'll if I can do my technology, I'll show you our FAQ, which shows all of these things in much more detail. So you can usually pick what it is like, oh, I need help with that. And you can submit a form and talk to an attorney. We have a hands-on intake process, which starts with our partnership channels, which are incubators, referral partners like E2, and universities that sometimes are working with groups to that are eligible for our services. We have a matching process, so we will find an attorney that has the requisite expertise, and then we facilitate that introduction. We coordinate and attend that introductory meeting, a project kickoff call, to discuss the scope of the pro bono representation, the timeframes, expectations. And then we also have relationship management where we will check in just to see how things are going. And you are always welcome, if there's something that comes up that's outside the scope of what was originally discussed on that kickoff call, to contact us and see if we can help you. At that point, we're a new matter. Maybe the scope has changed a little bit. We're there to kind of manage that relationship. We do not provide legal services ourselves. So that's one thing I wanted to make clear about, is that there's no staff attorneys on Green Pro Bono, but we do help facilitate this matching process. And we are attorneys that work for Green Pro Bono. We just don't take on the representations in-house. And our impact are, because of the reach of our organization and the range of volunteers that we have, we're able to help on both local and global projects of varying scale. To date, we have had $2.3 million in legal services that have been provided to over 200 organizations since 2010. And the climate change work that our volunteer attorneys help facilitate, so the organizations are able to do so many things. And here's a sampling of them: reforesting landscapes, reducing food waste, climate change documentaries, even just expanding the reach and awareness of global climate change. And then the last one I had was how to get connected with us. And that's that you can fill out a request for services. It's a link on our website, or you can email us directly. If you think that there's something, if you're talking with Harriet, or there's a couple other folks that are interested, or EPN, certainly reach out, let us know, because we're happy to kind of have a group call and see if there is something where we can provide that additional support. I am going to stop sharing my screen here. One of the things I wanted to do was to upload the PDF of the slides, and I don't have permission to add that. So I did email Harriet the PDF, and you are welcome to distribute that. Or if you are able to upload them, you can do that yourself. One of the other things that, and then I will absolutely answer any questions. One of the things that I wanted to do is, if I can share the website with you, I can show you the, let's see if it'll go to the website. All right. So are you seeing a frequently asked questions page?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. All right, so these are the different ones that I mentioned. So all of these different categories that I had mentioned, there's specific legal advice or specific legal representation that we have helped with. And this is also, again, on our website, many questions that we get is also described on our website, just under our FAQ section, which is under this client section. And then if you want to request services, you can fill this out. It's very simple. We don't actually ask a lot of information. This is our process that you can see here. You just click this button, complete your contact information, and then we will schedule a call. All the intake that is conducted by our organization is conducted by licensed attorneys. Okay, so Harriet, I was trying to be really fast.
That was fabulous. And maybe rather than doing questions now, let's have
Sure.
Gillian and Nesta present and then open up the floor to questions to everyone. And I just wanted to say that A2 tested out, we wanted to set up a 501c4, so we tested out Queen Pro Bono, and thank you. We were connected very quickly to one of the initial volunteers, and now we're waiting, hopefully, to get someone who can help us do that work. So we appreciate it. Okay. Lawyers for Good Government, who are you going to both talk, or who am I handing over to?
Hi, Harry, it's Jillian. I will start and then I will share it to my friend and colleague, Nestor. But I did see someone's hand up. I don't know if we need to address that before we dive in.
Let's do questions at the end.
Okay, you got it. All right, I'm going to attempt to do the same thing and share a screen. Let's see how my tech's working today. How's that? Is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Erica, for sharing yours. We were just talking with Stephanie the other day about cross referrals. So this is great. Okay, well, I'll be as quick as I can. I want to share with you all what we have on offer at Lawyers for Good Government, in case it's helpful to any and all of your communities. Really excited to be here. So thank you for inviting us. I am Jillian Blanchard. I am the director of our Climate Change and Environmental Justice Program, and also an energy and natural resources attorney. I use she, her pronouns, and I am here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I'll kind of dive right in on Lawyers for Good Government. Hang on a second. There we go. So want to chat with you today, just kind of high level, who we are, what our services are that are on offer, and then really zoom in on the two offerings of direct services that are most relevant to communities, our Decarbonization and Climate Resilience Funding Clinic, and then Nestor's going to talk about our Clean Energy Clinic. And then we'll wrap up with kind of resources that are open sourced and available to you right now to share with whomever you'd like, any communities that can use them, because we want to scale the impact of any of our work as much as possible to as many communities as possible. So if you've never heard of us, Lawyers for Good Government, or affectionately known as L4GG, we are a nonprofit that was started on the eve of the 2016 election, and we've grown to a nationwide network of over 125,000 legal advocates in all 50 states. And we work in areas where we believe lawyers can make a difference. So we actually have a variety of programs. We have our reproductive rights program, an immigration program, a racial justice program, and then I help to run the climate change and environmental justice program. The icon wasn't big enough to fit in environmental justice, but that is a key aspect of our work and our mission in the CCEJ program. So basically, our overall mission is to expedite the just transition to a clean economy. But we do this through three initiatives that are highly overlapping. Environmental justice, where we help communities fight for equity and infrastructure, things like siting and implementation. The clean energy side of things, where we provide legal guidance, these days very much so on the Inflation Reduction Act and how to leverage direct pay and tax credits available to communities. And then clean water. Really, we've done some work directly with communities on getting some access to clean, affordable drinking water. And we also provide guidance on wetlands protections, particularly in the wake of the Supreme Court decision. So just a little more context to see how these clinics kind of fit in. This is where I think we're a little bit different than probably the green pro bono model, and that we are not a clearinghouse. We actually manage the work in-house. We have in-house staff attorneys. We have plaintiff, Nestor is one of them. I'm one of them. And we kind of do this top-down, bottom-up approach where we work directly with state and local governments, and have since 2017, on expediting this shift to make sure it's a just transition. But then primarily our focus is working in community with communities on their specific projects, either through the Decarbonization and Climate Resilience Funding Clinic, which I'll talk about in a minute, or the Clean Energy Clinic, to kind of learn what's working and what's not working in community by building out attorney teams for these communities, and then feeding what we learn at the local level into our state policy work. We're trying to kind of work on systemic change for communities. So anything we kind of learn in our work with communities, we want to then lift up, scale the impact, share those templates out to other similarly situated communities, and then as relevant and appropriate, feed it into any state policy work that we might be doing. So let's zoom into the direct services, because that's probably what you're all most interested in. The Decarbonization and Climate Resilience Funding Clinic, or the clinic that really needs a new name, but it's the funding clinic. And it really is the one that provides the full bear hug wraparound direct legal services to communities for clean energy and climate resilience projects. We build full-on attorney teams for these communities, frontline orgs, neighborhood orgs. I'll give you some examples in a minute, that we see that have these fantastic projects. They just need an army of attorney to get them done. So we do kind of created a tailored attorney team that does all the policy, transactional, agency legal work to kind of get that project done. Similar to Green Pro Bono, we don't do litigation. I don't know if you all do, but we don't do any litigation, because we are zeroed in on creating some policy and local shifts in policy without the court system. We don't trust the court system these days. We don't want to make bad law, so we stay out of the litigation realm. Plus, there's other lawyers doing great work in that side of things. And then, like I said, we kind of identify communities that can have a scalable impact so we can remedy environmental harms, structural inequities, et cetera. So let's get into some examples so you can figure out how you use this or share this with your communities, your frontline orgs, folks that you're working with, or use it yourself to be able to benefit the work you're doing. So we will build an attorney team for each community clinic client that we take on, that project finance attorneys, we have energy utility attorneys, we have administrative law attorneys that are all within our network. I just got to notice that my internet connection is unstable. So Harriet, will you let me know, jump in if if I start to sound wobbly?
You disconnected briefly, but you're back now.
Okay, sorry about that. It always happens when I have to present something. So these are the types of things we've already done and we can offer to other communities. All the city entitlement work for a project, or negotiating with the city to get those approvals, negotiating with utilities on interconnection and power purchase agreements, community benefits agreements, particularly now with all this money coming down through the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. We are working with communities that are supposed to be sub-recipients, building out community benefit agreements or memoranda of understanding so that it makes sure the benefit goes to the community as it's supposed to. Some examples that of communities we're working with right now. One is a neighborhood organization in Toledo, Ohio, with an incredible eco-village project that's going to have EV charging and solar, et cetera. So we're working with them on a variety of things. We built out an attorney team on their community change grant application or their city entitlements. We're helping them with direct pay and taking advantage of the tax credits, because as Nestor is going to talk about, that's what the whole Clean Energy Clinic is really about. And then we learn, as I mentioned, what we work with communities on and feed that up in our policy work in Ohio at the local level with the city of Toledo to establish a priority funding for disadvantaged communities. We're also working on a solar panel climate resilience hub in New Orleans. Fantastic organization, has some great work they're doing there with solar agreements with
You
microgrid
are
solar
breaking up
project.
now a lot.
I am? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm not
Okay.
sure if there's anything you can do, but yeah.
I'm gonna go off video. You don't need to see me. That might
Okay.
help. Is that any better?
Yes, let's see. I'll let you know if you break up again.
Okay, I apologize. I know that's very irritating. Anyway, the solar panel climate resilience hub in New Orleans, and then a microgrid solar project in Gary, Indiana. These are just a smattering of examples of communities that we're working with. Of course, we can't take on every single community. We are offering wraparound services that are managed in-house. That would be ludicrous, but we do take on a lot of communities. We are, at the moment, we're full for the first part of 2024, but we're opening applications right now for the latter part of 2024 for communities in need. And let me go to the resources that you can share right now. So first and foremost, that first live link, and I'll share this with you, Harriet, to share with folks, is the Decarbonization and Climate Resilience Funding Clinic application form. We asked for a variety of information to help go through our rubric to make sure the missions align, and we're looking for great candidates for 2024. And that, you know, this is kind of a smattering of examples of the types of assistance that we will provide and the types of folks who would fit well into our clinic. Then there's a live link there for some free federal funding resources. As I mentioned, all the work we've already done, we kind of build it into templates, free fact sheets, etc., so that other communities can benefit from it. So everything that we have will go on that website. And then last but not least, our 50 state disadvantaged communities report. If you haven't seen it, take a look. If it's at all helpful to you, share far and wide. It basically just provides the state level policies that exist today in each one of the 50 states. So it identifies kind of the mapping that exists, the policies, the decision makers, with live links to help folks get there. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, particularly since I'm breaking up, and turn it over to Nestor.
Thank you, Jillian. Hi, everyone. My name is Nestor Perez. I'm a clean energy attorney here at Lawyers for Good Government in the Climate Change and Environmental Justice Program, pronouns he, him. And I am also a member of an environmentally overburdened community and former advocate for environmental justice at the litigation side. So very glad to be speaking with you all, and I'm so grateful for the work that you all do. So I'm going to present a bit about our Clean Energy Clinic, which is a program that we have for a more light to moderate touch technical assistance, as opposed to the full wraparound services that Jillian was mentioning in the previous program presentation. This one addresses primarily the financing of projects through the Inflation Reduction Act, infrastructure law, and other available funding to really kick off the clean energy transition through projects at the community level and local and state level as well. So I'll pass it on to the next slide. So here you can see the main goal really is to increase energy democracy across the country. And we do that through making sure we have the technical assistance available at multiple levels. And that goes from the lightest level at frequently asked questions that you will see further on in our slides that anyone can submit a question to, all the way to full one-on-one services similar to the previous presentation, but more focused on the clean energy projects and the funding. So the primary way that we do this is that we identify issues that the communities and local governments are facing and turn them into this open source resources available through fact sheets and other resources, as we can see in the next slide. So here we have the different types of communities and targeting levels that we have, like I mentioned, one-on-one, and how we use the knowledge base that we're building through those one-on-one services and turn it into open source resources are both done in webinar format sometimes in fact sheets, sometimes directly into our frequently asked questions. And those are resources that you can you or anyone can access freely in our website. And the main focus right now are the communities that have completed eligible projects in 2023 and are ready to file for those tax credits in 2024. And so main type of projects that we're seeing eligible for filing right now are rooftop solar installations, EV charging infrastructure, commercial EV purchasing, but also one of the needs that we're identifying is the need for the finance and the capital planning for future projects, because as you may know, the tax credits that are available through the Inflation Reduction Act are really helpful and can be a sizable portion of the financing for a project, but they may not end up covering the full financing that's needed. And also they come at the end once the project has been placed into service and once the project has been filed for these taxes and once the IRS has done the reimbursement. So we are also developing some finance models here in-house to be able to address specific needs that we're seeing on the ground. And the real full launch of the Clean Energy Clinic, we're expecting it between June and July. And for you and your communities to be appraised of those announcements, we really urge you to sign up on our announcements here linked. And like I said, these slides will be shared so you can access all these links with more time on your own. And so next slide, please. You'll see here the full suite of resources that we have on the elective pay portion, on the Clean Energy Clinic portion of our program, including the fact sheets, which can help communities really start to gather the information that the IRS is going to be asking as you pre-file and as you file your tax returns to claim the direct pay credit for your eligible projects. And you have the link here to our FAQ database. That is probably, if I want one takeaway from this part of the presentation, is that FAQ database, it's extremely useful. We're seeing it being converted into really a repository of all the latest answers by attorneys in our network of attorneys that have answered issues that have presented themselves at the community level, at the state level, at the county and city level. And you can search that either by credit type or by the issue that you're having, and you will see a combination of all the answers we've answered in the past. And your question itself is something that we run by our attorneys, anonymize and publish for others to be able to use. So I urge you to follow the links on asking a discrete legal question to our team of legal experts as needed, and subscribe to our new and upcoming announcements as mentioned in the previous page, but also any of the other resources here can be of help to different types of needs. So lastly, I'll pass it back to Jillian for a conclusion summary of services.
Thanks, Nestor. Yeah, I'm mindful of our time, Harriet, and I just want to kind of wrap up very quickly in one summary page. If you're wondering, wow, there's 2 clinics, which one do I go to? The funding clinic is the wraparound services for when you have a project you want to get approved and you need soup to nuts, start to finish for a community organization. The Clean Energy Clinic is really focused on leveraging like the direct pay provisions of the IRA and getting folks those tax credits and helping to finance and pay for projects, as Nestor was describing. So those are the 2 different offerings. And so these are all just live links for people to be able to use all the open source resources, the FAQs that Nestor suggested, just for folks to have in mind. Those FAQs are like, if my community has a question about direct pay, I don't know how to use this thing called direct pay or tax credits, send them to the FAQs. It'll probably give them all the kind of basics and resources, and they can ask a question directly. Federal funding resources there as well. And then the last thing I want to just tag on this slide is we have been offering to other communities, happy to do it to A2 if you think would be helpful, kind of a train the trainer offering of a training session for folks who are working in community and want to know about like direct pay? How do I use it? How do I leverage it? Like a 1 hour offering. We've been able to train up folks that are working in community, and then they can just scale the information and share it farther and wider. So I want to offer that piece up as well. Harriet and others, if it ever makes sense for us to kind of come in and share that, we're very, very happy to do that, because you're all doing great work in community, and we want to arm you with information to, you know, on the various tax tools in the IRA. So that's all. Happy to answer any questions, and apologies for the length. I'll blame my tech, but I know it's not really the tech's fault.
Thank you. That was terrific and much appreciated. And thank you so much for your superb work. So I suggest we do questions either by people putting up their virtual hand, or putting questions in the chat, and I'll aim to monitor them. Who has a question? And you might not don't just do it like that, because we're on several screens, so I won't be able to see you. Ramona. And you're on, yeah.
Oh, hey, everybody. Oh, this is just amazing. We are working on a project in Jackson, Mississippi, where we are looking at converting 178 acres of land that is in a floodplain. It's all in a floodplain, and runs parallel to the Pearl River. And we're looking at converting this property, this property, it's owned by the city of Jackson, into a nature preserve to help to mitigate flooding from 3 communities that we have been organizing in since March of last year. So the first presenter said that you all do land use issues, land use, provide pro bono legal land use services. The city owns this property. We are trying to position ourselves so that we'll be ready to apply for CCG. We've gone through the planning. We have the architectural drawings and everything like that. Now we need to move the process forward. We are also looking for a partner to partner with us on this as the lead, because our organization doesn't have the capacity to administer funding in the millions, which this is going to be. For our Lawyers for Good, that's the whole climate clinic. I'll be applying for some technical assistance on that side, but things that are legal services that we need in order to move this project forward, and maybe get some pressure behind the city and have them to either sell it to us, to donate it. What would it look like from a management, from an ownership perspective? Should we set up a community land trust? So there's a lot of things that we need to figure out. Thank you.
Erica, do you?
So thank you for that. So I would suggest submitting the form on our website. I am kind of newer to Green Pro Bono, and Stephanie Dimitri is the executive director, and she would have a better idea of the volunteer base that we have in Missouri, or you said it was Mississippi, right? Mississippi. And so I think that
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that sounds like something that we would be able to help with, but we want to have an intake call to get a little bit more of the details around timing. Just at this point, based on what you mentioned, I might suggest kind of early on to explore the conversations with some of the potential other organizations who may have the capacity either now or in the near future to be able to manage it, just because that may be a readiness factor that we will evaluate about, when the attorneys are going to be ready to be able to take on the representation, which could include figuring out what is the best way to hold title to the land, how to, whether if it's going to be an organization, a land trust, and all the, factors related to that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I would invite L4GG if they have any other suggestions too.
I see that Gillian posted something on chat. Did you want
She
to say
did.
that?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to follow up that happy to Ramona, it sounds like that would be a very interesting project in the funding clinic as well, the first offering. So that application form that's in the slideshow, I would encourage you to sign on. You'd have to look at what land use attorneys we have in Missouri, but we do have a really big network. So I'm hopeful we could find one.
It was Mississippi, right?
Oh, sorry, in Jackson, Mississippi. Yes.
Yeah.
Jackson, Mississippi, yes, yes.
Good. Thank you. Winifred.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, all, and thank you so much for this. This is very timely. I'm with the Weequahic Park Association, and we have a 30-year. We've been around for 30 years, and we have a partnership agreement, 30 years or more, with the county. And so the county, basically, they've been neglectful in upholding their end of the bargain for the partnership agreement. So I was wondering if you provide services pertaining to partnership agreements in terms of enforcement. Maybe you can take a look at it, and then we follow through with the trial or whatever it takes to get them to do their due diligence. And then also, since we are modeled after Central Park, and not nearly the capacity, but we aspire to get, near Central Park somehow. And we also would like to reconstruct an original boathouse that was there, and then the county took it down, to provide some sort of economic incentive for the community and other small business, local business owners as well. So do you deal with that at all? Or I know you mentioned capital funding and capital help, but would that fall within the realm of the capital funding and help?
I can tackle this one because actually, I was just looking to see if it was the same name who applied. Winifred, it was you that we have your information on the clinic. You're getting our funding resources. We weren't able to help you then because it sounded like what you needed is litigation. That's the piece that we don't do. I don't know, Erica, if you all look for folks in your network to help with litigation pieces.
Yeah, so litigation is something that we would not take on. However, we would recruit someone to review a contract and advise you on your options and perhaps negotiate up to litigation, but we would not take on the actual filing of a complaint or enforcement.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, because the litigation part, we decided, okay, we're going to have to take that on ourselves. But everything prior to that, yeah, we need as much help as possible.
So it sounds like Green Pro Bono might be good candidates.
Yeah, I would suggest submit the form online, and I'll put it in the chat too. But yes, because I think that what we can do is maybe explore on an intake call and see how far along it is. If all the negotiation options have already happened and occurred and are done, we may not be able to provide much help. But if we're kind of at the earlier process and we want to review the agreement, see what options there are for breach, see if we can get perhaps a new agreement in place or negotiation, then that might be what are other options besides litigation, or if the organization has the financial capacity to be able to go forward with litigation, it may be something that you want to do. But we wouldn't know until we have that intake call with you and your board member.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So Daryl, are you happy to read yours out? I know you put it in the chat. Or did you want me to read it out for you?
No, I can. So similar to Ramona, we actually have a memorandum of understanding with the City of Atlanta to operate our nature center, which is on a city nature preserve. It's about 24, 26 acres. But a lot of times the city has to renew that agreement every 5 years. I mean, we've been in there 15, so it doesn't seem to be a problem. But I'm wondering, do we need some type of kind of legal support in terms of, these partnership agreements with the city that protect ourselves from liability? And also the board has been interested in some time with how might we go about purchasing land for a real estate portfolio? Like, how do we have a diverse income stream other than programming? And so I didn't know if you all would be able to help with those types of questions, as well as I think the last thing was employee policy help. We are growing and we might need some help with that employee manual or liability policies. And so those are my 3 questions, perhaps to Green Pro Bono, but of course, to all of you, if you got some insight.
Erica?
You go ahead, Erica.
Yes, thanks. I'm reading your chat also just to make sure I got everything. Thank you so much for that. Yes, so it sounds like for the real estate work and land acquisition and understanding that piece of it, that sounds it's within our bailiwick. And it sounds like, I don't know if it's a CBA, community benefits agreement, or an MOU related to the city of Atlanta. So advice around that would also be something that we would want to have an intake call and explore a little bit more, because it may be something that we can provide the advice on. The employment manual is definitely something that we can help with. So to the extent that your organization is hiring additional employees or has employees already and perhaps doesn't have a policy handbook, that's something that we can probably find a volunteer with pretty quickly. And then was there another one? Those are the 3 that I was looking through the chat for.
No, I guess in adjacent to the employee policy, we're transitioning because of this multi-year funding, making more contractors who get 1099s actually staff.
Oh.
And so, which is great because it's growing, but there are questions that the board has with respect to, how do we protect ourselves from some of the issues that have a tendency to occur on the workplace. So
right.
That would be the only other comment.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm going to broaden this just a little bit so everyone else can follow along. So when you hire a worker, an organization and the board specifically, if it's not delegated to the executive director, may have personal liability for payroll taxes if they're not paid. And that comes when a worker is hired and classified as an independent contractor, what really should have been hired as an employee, a W-2 employee. And so there's the IRS has put out its notices to say they're going after employers who are trying to basically skirt around paying payroll taxes by hiring 1099 workers instead of what they should have been hiring was W-2 workers. So because this has been going on for a couple of years with the IRS, boards notably are kind of understanding the risks associated with misclassifying workers as independent contractors versus employees, or for example, converting what used to be an employee position to an independent contractor position. That raises risk for the employer, for the organization, and potential personal liability for the unpaid payroll taxes for the individual board member. So that's kind of what Daryl's question is going at. And so that's something that, so just so you know, the advice around that about classification, if you have a few employees and you just want to, or a few workers and you want to make sure, like, is this classified appropriately? That advice would be something that our volunteers do on a regular basis. And if there's any, changes or filings that need to be made by changing a worker's classification, because there are certain filings that need to be done both at the state level and at the federal level, the attorney can help provide advice around those filings as well. So I don't know if that helps, Daryl. Okay, good. I got a thumbs up.
Can you Gillian, did you want to add anything to that?
Just to say that in terms of the agreement and like the templates, Daryl, that you were talking about for purposes of like, how do we get this land acquisition? That's something that we definitely can work with you on. I'd encourage you to, I just put the link in the chat of the application form for our funding clinic, because we're building out templates for readiness for projects, for what to think about in terms of purchasing. And anytime we have community benefits agreements, as well, if you want to just fill out the request for the other kind of MOU review or any, other things you might need related to that piece, land transactions, that's definitely things, the types of things we can help with.
Thank you. Dawn, you had your hand up and now it's gone and now it's down. Did you want to ask anything? I'm assuming it's about your FOIAs,
Yeah, I'm not, it's not really a question, just before I started trying to help my community of Island Green, which is an unincorporated area of Myrtle Beach, people have gone to lawyers before and were told they can't do anything to help because of, unfortunately, it's the good old boy system here. The lawyers are friends with the county council, and most of our county council are realtors and they want development to start. Our community was once a golf course community, gated with only one way in and one way out. 2/3 of our community is up against the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge. We have wildlife that comes in. Two developers have clear cut 3 areas. And every time they clear cut, we flood. Mostly we have a natural creek that flows from the Waccamaw River into our community, plus all the stormwater drains are flowing out to the federally protected refuge. So when that fills up with water, it comes back in on us. The developer, when he bought the land, it had a plan from the 1980s to build. Well, it's no longer 1980s. It's not the 80s anymore. It's 2024, and the bylaws are with one entrance and exit 100 homes. Before they started building, we were 1,200 homes, and we were good with that. Well, now with all they're wanting to build in here, it's going to be over 2,000 homes, and we won't get a second entrance or exit, which is over the limit. Only one way in and one way out. We're not ever getting another way in or out. The county planning commission said as long as they fix our one and only road in here, they get to build. Well, plans for the road was supposed to be started 2 years ago, and now they're saying it won't be until up to 5 years. Their equipment puts potholes in our one and only road. The residents here who are mostly elderly are pitching in pennies to fill the potholes, so their cars aren't being thrown out of alignment and this and that, and it's ridiculous. At 3 inches of rain and we flood. One of the county councilman or planning commission guys, he recused his vote on this because he knew he was going to be building the road. 3 inches of rain put a sinkhole in that road. I videotaped it. I got arrested for it. That's over and done with. I'm not looking for any help with that. It's just now these people are afraid if they speak up, something like what happened to me is going to happen to them. We have a chance to have our testimonials of what happens here in the Washington Post, and no one will speak up. 3 testimonials out of over 1,200 people that live here, and no one wants to speak up. And I am beside myself with no one wanting to help us.
Thank you. Erica and Gillian, as Dawn mentioned.
Well, there are a couple things that come to mind. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Harriet. I think I cut in and out.
No,
I don't
you
know if I
carry it. No, go.
overlapped you.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay, it's working. Sorry. Done. Number one, I'm very, very sorry that you're dealing with that. It does not sound unfortunately too surprising, but I think one thing that
Sorry, Gillian, you cut out. Do you want to turn your video off and try again?
Sorry. It's a good thing I got fiber optic cable, so these things wouldn't happen.
Go for it again now.
Okay. Anyway, I was just saying one thing that we could potentially help with is kind of first and foremost a memo on what your legal options might look like. We can't help with the litigation piece, but we do a lot in the administrative agency negotiating with cities and counties. The other piece I didn't mention in the presentation, but we have on offer is a comms department within L4GG. Because as you said, I think you alluded to, Don, sometimes the law doesn't help us in an area, but getting the comms out there can make a difference. And having a national organization like L4GG and other, we work very closely with NRDC, with Policy Link, with a lot of national orgs that we can bring in to address the equity issues. We're doing that right now in the state of Indiana because the state agency has done some racist things. So to the extent that ends up being relevant to kind of what you're doing, they're first to figure out what all your legal options are. We can't help you with the litigation piece, but we can tell you what options there are and potentially help you with the administrative agency side of it in working with the city and county. If that doesn't work, bringing in our comms people to kind of uplift the stories separately so that your folks don't have to do the testimonials and risk arrest, but that maybe our comms folks can uplift the stories for you.
Well, real quick, we did have the South Carolina Environmental Law Clinic.
Sorry, Dawn, I'm going to have to interrupt just because we've got one other speaker and we've only got 4 minutes left. Sorry, one other question. Sorry about that, but maybe you can, reach out to Gillian and Erica and communicate directly. I just want to go and make sure that Frances had the chance to ask her question. Frances.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. Here in Austin, Texas, we are going through a lot of displacement where the city is trying to change the land development code, make some changes that is going to accelerate displacement by, so what we're trying to do is asking the mayor and the city council to delay that implementation of zoning. But we already have won 3 lawsuits in the rights for residents, the rights to protest, and we have, the city keeps breaking the law. I guess my question is, when city council breaks the law in zoning changes, they have nothing to, like, there's nothing that they can be in, how would I say it? Like, if we do something wrong, we pay, right? There's something that we have to pay. The city keeps doing this, and residents are always the ones that are feeling the impact of the changes that the city is doing, rezoning our neighborhoods and displacing. Whenever you talk about density, yes, density is right, but it has to bring, have a process, a community process, and it doesn't seem to happen because they just keep breaking the law and they keep, doing the same thing.
Thoughts from
I'll just share there, on Frances, that 2 things. One, yes, you're right. The only way that it's going to come into play is probably some form of a lawsuit against the city for failing to follow its own policies in implementing these changes. And And so I would encourage you to kind of think about what that might look like. If you want to reach out to me, we can connect you to other orgs that I do know that are doing litigation on these types of things. And then the last thing I want to say is if you do have a willing city decision maker who is interested in putting in policies that isn't breaking the law but wants to make some change, we're going to be releasing a displacement report in the next few months that's going to identify specific tools that cities can use to prevent that displacement through decarbonization. We're focusing on different cities besides Austin, but happy to share that if you have a willing, local decision maker who's ready to kind of talk about implementing those tools and share that out with you.
Thank you. Erica, did you have anything to add? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry. I think that this is probably not something where we're going to be the best resource, just because it sounds like it's against a city policy or a potential litigation. So that's probably not, ours is more on the capacity building internally to an organization. But I suggest that you follow up with Jillian, who may have the additional resources and connections for that work, especially because it's so important to the community to get, be able to stay.
Wonderful. Well, I think what I've found with the legal help, and we've been running A2 for years, is it has felt impenetrable how to get help. We've gone from kind of legal clinic to illegal clinic, begging and pleading, and to have people on a call now who are just being really, really, really helpful is fantastic and truly appreciated. And so we really value your time and your work, and I'm sure we will have many of our members in contact with you either immediately after this call, or as Michelle Gillies, who's here, wave Michelle, will be supporting people as they make those referrals to you. So thank you for your accessibility. We really, really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you in collaboration.